Going live, and we are live for week 7 of Fantasy Football Preview. Hopefully this works. This week we have some technical difficulties surrounding this whole thing, so we're trying to get some issues worked out. But I think we're there. So yeah, guys, we're short again one. We don't have Max, who decided to. I think he determined that going to a play was more important than fantasy football preview, albeit it was the nightmare before Christmas live performance, I think he said. So
bye weeks are hitting everyone hard.
They are. So, and that's just I thought it might be for another issue, but well, let's get to who's here first. So we got Seth Hof is here.
Yes, back-to-back starts this week.
You've been suffering through illness and ailments. Are you better this week, Seth? How you doing?
Feeling a lot better, feeling good. So
good.
Top of my game, coming off a win. So that always helps.
Absolutely, no, nothing better in the world, I think, than a fantasy football win. Debatable, but it's up there. And Mr. Perfect Attendance himself, Mark Garlitz, is as always here.
Yes, I am. I had a scratchy throat earlier this week, but I'm fine now.
Oh, sorry. I should always ask, Mark. It's just presumed I should just ask that how you're doing. I take it for granted sometimes, just how, how perfect your attendance actually is.
I'm the Iron Man of this show.
Oh man. Well,
I've been on the show more than you somehow.
We'll never figure that out. But what I was going to say about Max was I thought maybe the reason he didn't show up was because of the way our matchup went down this week.
Oh, boy.
Oh, God. It was crazy. Honestly, I asked him afterwards. I was like, most ridiculous fantasy football matchup ever? ? And he agreed. I know there's been some crazy ones, but the way that I want to quickly run through how it went down. So I had a Thursday night game out of town. Had my lineup set, though, ahead of time, and Devontae Freeman was going for the Falcons and put up another almost 30 spot in some garbage time TDs that he had going, but set up a weekend where I thought I would cruise to a victory. Had Sam Bradford going in. I was up 30-some points, I think 35 points going into Monday Night Football. Had Sam Bradford going up against the Eagles D and Odell Beckham. I slightly concerned, but the way Bradford had looked, I thought it would be all right. First quarter rolls around, Beckham gets his touchdown, Eagles D gets a pick six at some point in the first half. All of a sudden, Max is climbing back, and at end of the third quarter, we're sitting there tied. And it was just, I don't know how much of Monday Night Football you guys watch, but it was a pretty terrible game, just like every NFC East primetime game has been. Just every NFC East game has been this year. So they're tough to watch, but it was intense in the way that nothing in terms of what was happening on fantasy for us was happening. So we kept sitting there. We were tied at 129.8 points. I'll remember that number. Going into the fourth quarter, and it just, the numbers wouldn't budge. And fractional scoring even, you get everything for every yard. So 129.8 points down to 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Eagles get the ball. They start driving, and I told Max, I had this prediction in the middle of the second quarter. I was like, dude, I'm going to lose this on kneel downs. I was like, Sam Bradford, we're going to get the ball at the end of the game. Bradford's going to kneel it, and I'm going to lose. So lo and behold, a minute and a half on the clock, Eagles have the ball. Bradford kneels. Kneels once, I lose 0.1. Kneels again, somehow he dropped back 2 yards, and I lost 0.2. So it was 129.8 to 129.5. The clock ran out, and I was a loser. But I was saved by a stat correction that I don't know if anyone did this. This is a play that will stand out for me for some time in terms of fantasy. The Eagles looked like they had sacked Eli Manning. This is how they got the ball back. And he had also, at the same time, thrown the ball, and he got flagged for intentional grounding. But the way ESPN scored it, they awarded the Eagles a sack. So they had 21 points on defense. That's how, when everything added up, it was 129.8 to 129.8. So then the kneel downs happen, the clock runs out, and 5 minutes later, after I had just got done, congratulating Max over Twitter and saying I knew it was going to be the kneel downs, I look back, and what do I know but that sack had got overturned, and it was taken away from the defense. So all of a sudden, I went from down 0.3 points to up 0.7, and I didn't even have the chance to say anything to Max because he had just got done gloating. So I was like, wait a minute, hold on, what just happened here? And the script had flipped. So long story short, that's why I thought he wasn't here this week. So whether he's actually out of play or not, I don't know. That has to be one of the most ridiculous finishes to a matchup of fantasy football.
That would be quite the ruse if you lied about going to a play to avoid talking to you about the game.
I know. He sent me some talking points.
I would have passed him, though.
But we'll get to those eventually.
Rob, more shocking than the way it ended, which was very, very shocking. The thing that kind of stood out to me is both of you scored almost 130 points.
Yeah.
And you still, like, the other team ended up losing. Like, it's just those crazy matchups. And I want to remind you of something that happened last year, because I don't know if you remember this, you might have blocked it out, but one Big Balls Chips over there put up a impressive 140 points in loss.
I do.
In a loss to none other than moi, who put up a frightful 180. So
oh my God, that was I did forget about it, but that game right there was literally, it's the difference between my season this season and my season last season, fantasy football. Because last year, if you go back and look at the stats from 2014, I was the highest scoring team in our league, and it was no contest. And my record was 3-10. I mean, that's just not supposed to happen. Every week, I went up against a team that I put up triple digits, and then someone else would just put up more triple digits that were slightly more. That's just how it went. And then the next week they would go and score 60, and I was sitting there. I just couldn't buy a win. That's that game between us last year and this game between Max and I this year is like the epitome of what my fantasy football seasons have been like. This year, I'm eking out the wins. I'm still getting scored on pretty well. That's what she said. But it just so happens that I'm coming out with wins this year instead of devastating losses. Because I'm still, if you look at our league, I have the most points scored, points for, by 100 points. Wow. I have 732.6 points this year. The next closest team is 633, and that's you, Seth.
Yeah.
So there's that. But at the same time, I'm also getting scored against the most. So I have 683 points against. That's just how fantasy football is for me. I'll never be able to explain it. I put together dominant teams that put up a lot of points, and then everyone it's like they know they're playing me, so they want to have their best game. So I'll just never be able to figure it out, but that's what I have to deal with when it comes to fantasy football. So that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
So long story short, that's all that's happening in our lives in fantasy football. But I don't know. I mean, I know, Seth, you said you were kind of watching it and it was making you interested in Monday Night Football. I can't think of anything crazier.
No, and it was like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's like, ever since I started playing fantasy football, I know this isn't just me, this is everybody, and why fantasy football is so exciting. I mean, stupid games that you don't even care about, that have no relevance to your real team, your quote-unquote real team that you cheer for, become so much more interesting. And I mean, Red Zone is amazingly popular, but now, I mean, even just like sitting there looking at my iPad and seeing the little numbers pop up, and like I would just log on to see, oh, I wonder what games are close. I wonder what games still have to go. Holy crap, he's got this guy, and this guy, and he's only down by 10. Like, oh man, this is going to be really good. Like, I almost was more excited about the actual fantasy matchups than the real game itself. So,
yeah,
it was very, very interesting, especially because I was messaging Max back and forth.
Yeah, it's made it so much more just engaging, and that's why. I mean, everyone knows that's what sort of made fantasy football a success. But I mean, it's been crazy.
Yeah.
But Mark, I don't know if you want to drop any 2 cents into here.
I've seen it all. I've been on the good end of the post-game stat correction. I've been on the bad end of it. In my reign as commissioner, I've seen it break up a tie. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. It's nice when it happens to you. It's devastating when it happens against you. But
Yes, but you get to spend like 3 weeks telling everyone what happened. You get a lot of mileage out of it, and then also when your season like falls apart, it's a crush.
To be fair, Rob, you knew before you went to bed on Monday night that you had won, or no?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I know I got a little crazy on social media. I pulled a little Brian Williams and said that I went to bed through a tweet or something, and then I woke up Tuesday a winner. That just sounds better. But
Yeah. Okay, no, I was just curious because.
You were curious?
Oh, don't kick a man while he's down, Mark.
I know, right? Ouch. But yeah. Anyway, so that just derailed us, but that's okay. We can dive in, I guess, to some injuries and news while they're here. So I know one to keep an eye on is that there's the potential return of Dez, which is sort of keeping people on edge because it's still really early for him to see if he comes back from, that broken ankle. And then also at the same time, Matt Castle, not an injury-related thing, but Matt Castle starting to speak for the Cowboys over Brandon Weeden, a decision that was hard on Weeden, but should have been, not very surprising the way he's gone 0 for 3 here over the last 3 games. So other quarterback injuries, Ben Roethlisberger, you guys might be able to tell a little bit more about what's happening over there in that side of the state, but the way he's talking, he thinks he's going to play this week. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think he's excited and eager, but I think just to make sure that he's full and 100% back, they'll keep him out again. So
yeah, and
I wouldn't be surprised if he dressed though.
Oh yeah, no, I would absolutely, yeah. I could see him dressing, and then if Jones goes out, Vic isn't ready, then we need him to come in. Maybe he goes in and pushes it, but I think if Jones goes in and plays at least semi-decent, then we'll be in good shape.
Well, Vic is hurt, and I haven't looked at the injury stuff, but I think he'll probably be out this week.
Yeah, he has terrible hamstrings. That's just something I've learned over the years. So to have him injure one, it's always a tear with him. So he's going to be out.
I actually haven't looked this up, but the best indicator would be to check and see if they sign a quarterback.
Truth. Something to keep an eye on.
Then they're at the very least dressing Ben.
And we can get on to this later because it's something I want to talk about. But Landry Jones making his first career start in Kansas City. I know the Chiefs aren't a great team right now, 1-5, but that's an environment that's going to be a lot for a rookie quarterback to handle. Well, not rookie, but a quarterback making his first NFL start.
Oh, so we're saving this for the steel corner.
We are. So
okay.
We'll do that later. When we get to that segment.
Something you're not going to see on any people's fantasy list about injuries is 2 of our top linebackers are coming back, Shazier and I can't remember the other guy's name. So the defense for the Steelers have been pretty good this year. I don't know where they rank in fantasy, but I mean Matt Castle isn't the greatest quarterback in the world. No Jamal Charles. So
yeah. They were on my. I was going to talk about them during my waiver wire dump because that's something I saw. They're not really highly owned in many leagues, so we can get to that. But other injury news, we got Keenan Allen probably going to go. Had a hip flexor strain and missed most of the second half of last week's game. But still a monster game, I'll admit. So Mark, you can keep harping on how much you hate him and.
I do. And
I know
it's,
you
not,
do.
it's personally, not even professionally. I just
I
like
know it
him as a
is.
person
I know you do.
because I'm
And
making this personal after what he did to me last year.
and now it's just come full circle, and he's the number 5 fantasy wide receiver right now. So
He'll make
I'm
you
loving it.
pay. He'll make you pay for your faith.
Somewhere down the line, I'm sure he will. But anyway, other wide receivers, Sammy Watkins is doubtful after getting a really weird hit sort of in the end zone on that touchdown catch last week. Jeremy Maclin has a concussion, probably going to be out. So that's another weapon there set for the Chiefs to be without going against the Steelers. Tyrod Taylor's questionable. He thinks he's going to play. I don't really know what's up with that. He made the trip to London, which is a good sign. Oh, that's something we can talk about too. We got the first streaming NFL game this Sunday, so interesting. But Carlos Hyde listed as questionable. Jordan Reed, Marcus Mariota questionable. They fantasy-wise, ESPN thinks Zach Mettenberg's going to get the start there.
Oh yeah, he is starting.
So yeah, it's not. I mean, I didn't see a definitive call yet, and this is Wednesday. So
I think there's reports coming out, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't think anything's official.
yeah, T.J. Yeldon, Jaguars is listed as questionable. Didn't practice and appears to be a long shot. And then Austin Safarian Jenkins, Tampa Bay tight end. Also, there's an outside shot. He suits up. Yeah, so that's all I can think of. One kind of injury-related news, if you're an Eddie Lacy owner like me, appears the ankle injury is still hobbling him. And obviously James Starks took a huge bulk of the carries last week and put up a pretty monster game. So if he's out there, it's Wednesday, so the waiver wire claims went through. He might not be out there for you anymore, but it's worth taking a look to see if some of the people that are slower to the gun there have jumped on James Starks yet.
Eddie Lacy's performance is alarming.
Yeah,
It
does
is.
he look bigger than he's been in the past? I mean, I've always known he was a big back, but he looks like he's at the highest he's weighed since he started. And I wonder if that's kind of contributing
It might.
a little bit of injuries.
Is anyone
I don't know.
Is anyone on ESPN's fantasy site right now?
Yes.
I didn't realize he wore glasses.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
Interesting.
Well, at least for the team photos, I guess. But he looks very astute, smart.
Yeah, it's bad. When C.J. Anderson's saying, like, man, that guy's having a tough year, you're in trouble.
Not good. Yeah, so I'm going to derail us just for a minute, only because this is a note from Max. I told you guys at the top that he had sort of sent some notes he wanted to talk about, and I guess we can talk about this sort of leading into the next segment because he's going to be my MVP of last week, co-MVP of last week, and that's Devontae Freeman, Atlanta's star now running back.
It's a controversial choice.
It is. I know it is. It's a very controversial choice, and that's because I also have DeAndre Hopkins on my team. Both number 1 wide receiver and running back there. I kind of hit the jackpot, I guess, if you will. But why I bring up Freeman and why this is going to derail us a little bit is because of this note that I'm going to directly quote from Max.
Oh, my gosh.
It says, quote, anyone with Devontae Freeman on their team doesn't deserve the wins they're getting. He sucked last year and continues to suck. He's just getting fed the rock at an alarming rate. It's complete rubbish. 7 points going into the third quarter, finished the game with 30. I'll be actively rooting against the Falcons the rest of the year. They aren't good. They got most of their wins from the NFC East, and you know how I feel about the NFC East. End quote.
Well,
that's rubbish. I just don't agree with it. I told him Monday night. I favorited a tweet where he ripped me for owning Devontae Freeman. I'm not favoriting this because I like it. I'm tweeting it to remind myself to rip into you for what you're saying because that's rubbish.
I'm sorry you had to hear it from like a crumpled up piece of paper with an angry note scrawled on it, but I agree with him. I want you right now to read your pre-draft notes where you said like Freeman's a breakout candidate. I think it's just like one of those things. Like there's a guy a year.
It was a true coin flip between him and Tevin Coleman, and that's everything I read. In one league I drafted both because I knew it could go either way. In this one I just happened to Coleman came off the board before Freeman, so I swooped up Freeman late in the game, and it panned out. Now, you wipe away everything that happened last year. You can't judge a guy based on what he did last year. It's the present. That's how fantasy is, and everyone should know that by now.
Sorry to interrupt you. No. You're not judging him by what he did last year. You're judging him by what the team did last year. And who thought Atlanta was going to be any good? Not me.
Well, not only that, their running backs are just, since Michael Turner fell apart, their running backs have been ugly the last few years.
I mean, their offense has been terrible last year. It was terrible last year. They were a bad team last year. Right. And I would have never guessed that this turnaround with a brand new head coach.
No. Absolutely not. I
agree. I understand the logic of taking a flyer on a guy that's getting opportunities. That's good policy, and you probably drafted him like the 7th round, maybe 7th or 8th.
Yeah, right around there.
But there's always one of those guys, and last year was Le'Veon Bell, where you just go like, what the hell? Like when a guy goes like, he's a different player. Everything he does is different, and that's what happened with Bell last year, and that's why so many people noticed. He looked completely different. Bell in his rookie year was not good. He ran a lot. Like, he got a lot of touches, but he was not, like, patient or dynamic. He just turned into a different player, like, overnight.
Right.
And it's crazy when that happens.
That's happened to Freeman. And what I don't get is, maybe it's bitterness. I don't know. And I know he's not here to defend himself, so I don't want to get into what specifically Max was saying, but it panned out. I don't know what to say. And it's not like he's putting up points against garbage teams. I know the NFC East, he's played all 4 teams now. But when he really turned it on was, I would say, he got started with his first touchdown of the season, Game 2 against the Giants. Not a terrible defense. They're not great, obviously. But his 40-point outbursts came against Dallas, who has a good defense. The next week he put up 33 against Houston and 3 touchdowns. And Houston, they have a good defense. They have what should be a good defense with Watt and Cushing and all those guys. Maybe not a great secondary, but that really doesn't factor into the running game all that much. And then last week, he had some garbage time points against New Orleans, but that was really the first. I'm sorry, I'm missing a week 5 in there against Washington, who also can't really be discredited for having a bad defense, because I think they have one of the better front sevens, call me crazy, in the league. And then, like I said, the garbage points against New Orleans. So I don't know how you can really have a knock against this guy.
Oh, I don't. It's frustrating because there was no way to predict this, that he'd become Mr. Everything. He basically is Le'Veon Bell reincarnated. Like, they throw to him all the time. He runs all the time. He's just a touch machine.
Yeah.
He gets it. He just gets it.
And I don't think I think Max, I think it's a lot of bitter grapes or sour grapes or bitter apples or whatever you want to say. I think that if you didn't get beat by him last week, I think you can appreciate it. And I think he's, that's what you draft for, like, that talented, person with a lot of potential and can make those big plays. Like, yeah, maybe you didn't think he was going to do this good, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but
it's all right. It makes sense. Like, the consensus is no one saw this coming, and it just so happens that someone was going to hit on him.
Yeah.
If it wasn't through the draft, it was going to be a week 2 pickup, and then he's going on a tear now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. He just panned out. That's all you can really say. So I don't think you can't legitimately knock him and say that it's all garbage time points or they're just giving him the ball. That's the essence of what makes someone a great fantasy asset.
Exactly.
They're giving him the ball.
Exactly.
He's getting the opportunity to go and put points up. So
now I can just knock him because I drafted him last year, and he failed me. I believed in him. I'm like, this guy's the next coming of Le'Veon Bell, who isn't anything yet, but I know he'll be good this year. And then he did.
You just did it. You should have followed the Le'Veon Bell script. Is all.
Yeah, I should have drafted Le'Veon Bell.
You
But,
have to realize that the touchdowns themselves are a little fluky. You're not going to expect to get multiple
no, yeah,
touchdowns per
no.
game, and that's the one criticism I will have of your team, Rob, is they're a little bit top heavy. I mean, you have 60 points contributed by 2 players.
Yeah.
So when those 2 players don't show up, it's you're going to have a bad time.
No,
So
I'm going to disagree with that. You want a top-heavy team because those guys don't exist. There's a couple in the league, period. You want the splash guys because you'd always fill a roster later. And I don't even think those touchdowns are fluky either because they're targeting him. It's just they're giving him volume, and volume will produce more touchdowns.
And I want to push back just a little bit that I'm top heavy. If you look at my team, I just happen to hit everywhere. And I know there's a couple guys that are on a bye this week, and Lacey didn't pan out. But you look at the Broncos defense, that's got the number 1 defense in the league, number 1 running back in the league, number 1 wide receiver in the league right now. Elsewhere, Keenan Allen, Mark, who I know, like I said, you don't like for personal reasons, number 5 wide receiver right now. Charles Clay, the number 7 tight end in the league. Justin Tucker, the number 5 kicker in the league. James Jones, the number 6 wide receiver in the league. So I just happen to, I think I have points up and down the board. It's just that I have some of the guys that are putting up the most and some others that could sort of go up and down week to week, but they're showing themselves to be consistent.
I'll say this from experience. Having all those blue chippers, all that's going to do for you is make it hurt a little more when you get bounced in the first round.
Oh, I know. Well, hopefully I earn myself a bye and a regular season title to at least recoup the entry fee.
Hang those banners.
Yeah, right? Oh, man. We'll see. I don't know. I know we talked about before the show the idea of peaking early, and it's so early right now. I know we're only in the middle point of the season, but...
Well, I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago or last week whenever I told you that, your defense was
a top 10 team.
Top 10 overall. I mean, Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers, all kinds of running backs and stuff, and you're above those. So that's the only thing I was trying to say. I'm not disrespecting you, or I'm not saying your team is not good, because when you do have players like that, it is a luxury to know that DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Freeman and the Broncos defense can single-handedly win a game. I could just start those 3 and I would be fine. Only thing I was trying to say is, especially for teams or people who have something like that, is just be cautious and don't just rest on your laurels, basically.
Oh, I got you. Much love. Much love.
Much love.
Awesome. Well, I stole a lot.
Bring it down. Don't listen to Parker, okay?
I know he's getting.
Listen
Even though I ended up beating him and winning that game, he got in my head a little bit here. So he threw me off. So now let's get back on track. And what do you guys got for your MVPs of last week and this upcoming week?
Good, Mark. You.
See, I could pick Devontae Freeman, could pick DeAndre Hopkins, and I will. Those are the 2 most valuable. Those are the obvious ones. Aside from that, I'll throw an unconventional one out. Landry Jones. And here's why. No one, except for complete idiots, played Landry Jones last week. Because when you can get a piece of a backup a third-string quarterback potentially coming into a game in a late-game situation, you have to start that. But I think he saved Martavis Bryant owners. Because one more down week, you're getting into week 7, and you've seen 5 points from a guy that was probably 4th or 5th round, and you have reasonable doubt that Hayward Bay could eat away at those touchdowns. Same thing with Wheaton. It becomes tempting to sell low, and it would be a good week to move him. And with the Roethlisberger still out, I think that would become appealing. So it's good to see the stuff he can do physically. I don't think many receivers can make that kind of catch on his first touchdown. And then the catch and run, it was pretty good too. So it restored faith, which is nice.
And that performance by Bryant is really what brought Max back into that game last week.
Yeah.
Not to rehash that.
No, it's the truth. As much as he hates on the Devontae Freeman, he had 7 points at what, fourth quarter?
Yeah,
How many Martavis Bryant have before that catch?
right.
So
So yeah, it's a lifesaver for those owners. And here's another good one too, and one I actually profited from because in my mind I was able to talk myself into it. Lamar Miller bailing people out.
Yeah.
That he looked horrific. And I kept telling
yeah.
myself actually I cut him and reacquired him after the bye in a different league, but that's a different story. I hated the way he was using the offense, and he looked like rudderless. Like that team looked like a mess.
Mark,
And I gambled on the fact that like any different coach, like Dan Campbell's going to make a name for himself, and he's going to do it by running the ball. And that was my thought process. And it won me my week in the big money league.
Mark, I wanted to ask you about this because I thought this was kind of peculiar. What was the rationale behind cutting Ronnie Hillman?
Because he looked horrible.
Especially coming off that, you cut him after the 2.6 week or
Yeah.
after the 20. I mean, he had 20 points. He had 103 yards and a touchdown.
I saw enough of that offense because, all right, I have 3 fantasy teams, and I thought just for the sake of like enjoying watching the games, I would just align those teams as much as possible.
Okay.
Try to get the same players across every team, so that way
Sure.
it's easier to like process and not have to root like for and against specific things within the same game.
I like it.
So the one player I was 100% sure on and made sure to get in all 3 of my leagues, C.J. Anderson.
Okay.
So then, of course, after stuff started falling apart, immediately I handcuffed in all 3 leagues. And like I had vested interest in the Denver offense, and I watched it, and I just saw enough. Like I don't want any part of the offense. And it looked like Anderson was still getting the bulk of the carries at the time. So Hillman was useless to me, and I didn't care. So I cut him because I didn't even care about the 100 yards. He still doesn't look that impressive.
He looks good.
He doesn't look good. Trust me.
He looks better than C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, okay. Awesome.
But you didn't cut him.
Because I don't need to quite yet. That doesn't mean I won't, because I have cut him another one.
It doesn't mean it won't. I'm just saying, like, I think, I don't know. I mean, and he had 111 yards last week. You think Peyton Manning's going to win them the games anymore?
No, I just think their offense is unownable. I wouldn't want any part of it. Like Thomas, like you're stuck with that, and he'll be fine because anyone could get him points. But that offense is just not pleasant to watch.
No,
Okay.
Instead, while we're on that topic, I want to throw another comment that Max sent along that I think you'll appreciate, Seth. He said he's finally on the bandwagon with you that Peyton is just washed up. He's too old, doesn't have the arm strength, and can't believe the Broncos are undefeated.
It's amazing. I mean, that's actually like, you know, if for some miracle the Broncos win the Super Bowl or even go to the Super Bowl, I mean, that's going to be like the question on everybody's mind is how the heck they did that with quarterback play that bad.
I'm still going to say this. I don't think they're a lock for the playoffs.
No, I was
don't
going to say
care how many games are ahead.
maybe Manning is pulling a reverse Manning. You know, terrible during the regular season, and then in the postseason he's
turn it on when he needs
turn
to.
it on.
Interesting. We'll see. But all right. So next up are MVPs for next week.
Well, I didn't go for. I'm sorry, I didn't get to say for last week.
Go for it. Sorry.
I wanted to ask Mark that question because it just baffled my mind. But I'm going to go with someone a little bit unorthodox, Greg Olson, who I mean he's a really good player. Always puts up numbers. I don't know where he was drafted, but I can't imagine it was within like the top 3 or 4.
I think he was like a fourth round guy.
Fourth round guy.
Low fourth.
I mean, 131 yards and a touchdown. Touchdown came late in the game, but it just said something, kind of spoke volumes. Whenever Carolina needed a score, he was open, and that's where they went to. So for where you got him, especially, and like how he outproduced all other tight ends that week. Well, I don't know about all other tight ends, but a majority of them. Definitely earns the MVP spot this week for me.
Greg Olson's average draft pick was number 52, so that would make him late 4th, early 5th round guy, depending on your format. team-wise, so that's interesting. Crazy. But, all right, next week, I'll throw out a name. I don't know why I'm doing this. After he just ripped into my team the entire time, I'm going to highlight a guy that Max has been in love with this year, and that's Carson Palmer. Going up against Baltimore, who has a terrible secondary right now. They're in Arizona. Carson's coming off of a few games where he is losses, but looked all right fantasy-wise. So I'm sure they'll be looking to make a statement, and I think they will against a 1-5 Baltimore team.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid pick. I'm going to be a little contrarian, though, and try to defend Baltimore, or at least against the Palmer pick. I think Baltimore's going to lose that game, but they're just too well coached to just get destroyed every game. Do you really think they're this bad?
Yeah. I mean, you have your head coach admitting it. Said we're not good enough to win those games.
Like, they've been good the whole time he's been there, so I think he'd be saying that if they're like a soft 3-3 or 2-5.
They're 1-5. You don't get to 1-5 and be like an okay team.
I don't know. Do you really see Baltimore as like a 3-13 team though?
The way they're playing right now, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they can't keep playing this poorly.
They can though, because they have so many missing pieces on defense. They don't really have. I mean, let's be real. The Ray Rice thing hurts.
That's not why they're losing.
It's not, no, but you add all those pieces up, and that is. I mean, they don't have Torrey Smith. They,
That has nothing to do with Rice.
No, I'm not saying just Rice. I'm saying all the pieces. So the pieces on offense, the pieces on defense.
But I don't know. Why am I defending them? But
yeah, I don't know. This is a waste of airtime. So.
No, it's not. I feel like, I don't know. Arizona's good, but like, they're getting too much love, and I think people take Baltimore for granted, even though they're terrible right now. It doesn't. Like, I still think they're gonna scrape out like 6-10 or 7-9.
Whatever.
Well, anyway, moving on.
Whatever.
This is not good, like, strategy as a general manager, because I'm trying to trade for the guy. But my pick is easily Todd Gurley. But
easily Michael Passator.
Yes. A reference no one will get.
That's all right.
No one will
Hopefully
get.
no one will get.
Well, actually, I would say a majority of the listeners would probably be Duquesne alum. So.
But no, this is when Gurley becomes a man. Like, you'll know after.
Every pun intended.
This is a great matchup. Oh man, this is where you get to see if he's actually Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
This
all right.
Like a show me week.
Oh, I'm interested.
But in terms of like being a GM, I'm only kind of interested in him.
I'm only kind of interested.
Kind of. All right, Seth.
I'm gonna go with Julio Jones. Kind of an off week for him last week. Only didn't get up to over 100 yards, but at Tennessee, really favorable matchup. I just think that we're gonna get to see what they lost to New Orleans, correct?
Yeah.
So good teams will bounce back from it. So we're going to really see what Atlanta is made from if they can bounce back and beat a bad team on the road. So I think they do that with the help of Julio Jones.
Awesome.
I'm really interested in Atlanta because like they had the new coach smell. Like everything was like right. Like they eked out some close games. They looked good. They gelled early. That's all like well and good. But I'm curious to see if they can maintain it.
How they respond from a loss.
And this is kind of a weird road game because like everyone assumes they're going to win this.
Right.
I don't know. Like Tennessee should be okay at home.
They should, but you got a new quarterback coming in who, I mean, has played there.
He's more seasoned than Mariota, though. I mean, like he's hungry. This is like he can make some money in these next couple games.
Yeah.
Seriously, if he looks good, he'll get traded this offseason to someone like, I don't know, Cleveland or something, some crappy team that needs like a third-tier quarterback.
Who's even playing? Who's starting for him? Mettenberger?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So this is a transition into the waiver wire dump, but I I almost considered him. I'm in a position where I don't trust Bradford. I got rid of Mariota, and was on the verge, on the cusp of dropping Peyton Manning. Unbelievable to think, but I need someone for like just a spot start this week because I just need something. I need to do something. That's where I'm really struggling on my roster right now is with a quarterback. So I went out and looked, and Mettenberger's sitting there, and I'm thinking he could do it. Like if there's a defense that I think is susceptible on the road, Atlanta's put up some pretty terrible numbers on the road against opposing quarterbacks. I found out 2 of their 3 worst defensive performances came on the road, and the third one was only it was against Whedon, I believe. So yeah, so one of them was against Whedon, the other was somewhere else, and so it looked like a situation where Mettenberger, who's only owned in 0.4% of leagues, obviously, could be a spot start kind of guy. But am I crazy?
Depends on how deep the league.
Yeah.
A league like ours, where you have 12 teams.
And remember, like that .04, there are some leagues that start 2 quarterbacks. I think that gets factored in.
Yep.
Yeah. The thing too is you have to understand is like, are you saying is he going to be a top 12 quarterback this week, which means that theoretically like every team should have a better quarterback than him? No, I don't think so. Is he?
Right.
You know what I mean? Is he better than maybe the bottom 6 quarterbacks who are actually available? Because most people have at least two people, 2 quarterbacks. So maybe.
I don't think he's earned my respect.
Yeah.
Usually there's better guys. I would consider
another name.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes, that's the name. That's exactly the name I was going to throw out. Throws a pick in every game, but he's averaging better than 16 points a game, and he's going to be playing in a matchup where he's going to be playing catch-up the whole time. So he's going to be throwing the ball against a susceptible Patriots defense.
Okay, good. I really wanted to bring this up because I'm curious about this. This is a really interesting game for real-life reasons and like for fantasy purposes, because the Jets weirdly have like
a 4-1 record.
Like Marshall is really good and Ivory is really good, but are they legitimate or is this just like a early season mirage?
Yeah, I think it's an early season mirage.
Fitzpatrick is terrible.
He is,
and we can never forget that.
No.
So
it's gonna. I mean, if there's any game where he's gonna show himself, it's got to be this one, right? This will be where we figure out what this team is, or is New England too hot? I don't know.
Because everyone's saying like, oh, New England's going to crush the Jets, but hey, it's okay, Brandon Marshall owners, because New England's secondary sucks.
Right.
And Ivory will be okay for some reason, even though they're going to be playing from behind. Don't worry, he'll get his. Like that kind of stuff. And it seems like people are just assuming that like Marshall and Ivory are good, and like no worries, like they'll get theirs, no matter what happens, like game flow wise. Like what if like Belichick game plans and just takes Marshall out of it completely? I don't know if we can discount that. Same thing, like what if Denver or the Jets can't run the ball?
Right.
I don't see that kind of like concern, and it's a Jets offense. When did they get this kind of respect? It's not like
never.
Denver.
It's a great question. So while we're on the, I don't want to get away from this topic of this game, but while we're talking about quarterbacks,
excuse me.
Sorry, I got a dog barking. That's okay. Hold on one sec. We can cut this out and post.
We're live. This is a live stream.
Oh no, this is what I've been waiting for. Now I'm the host.
You're on.
I'm back.
It was short-lived.
Sorry. I'll listen to that in post, so I'll figure out what was said. But anyway, while we're talking about quarterbacks that are on the waiver wire, one that I don't know if it's possible to handcuff a quarterback to a wide receiver, but if there is a situation where you can, and I'm testing it out this week, it might fail
double stack.
It might fail miserably. What I'm doing is I'm throwing in Brian Hoyer.
So you're stacking? That's a common play.
I'm stacking Hoyer on top of Hopkins because I mean, if there's any team that it makes sense for, I think it's that one.
No.
How's it pan out?
Whoa, here's a problem though.
Yes.
Okay, there's a scenario where Hopkins gets his numbers and
Yes.
Hoyer gets Benjamin game.
Yes.
That's the
Right.
risk.
Yes.
It is, but I'm going based on facts that O'Brien firmly committed to Hoyer as the starter. Which I know that he's done that 3 times already this season.
Yeah.
Are you playing me? That's going to
No.
determine whether or not I give you advice. Hold
No,
on.
I'm not. I'm playing Archie.
Okay. Team Archie or Archie?
Archie.
No one knows what that means, but it's a common
the
thing.
actual, I think the actual Archie team Seth Hof. So
I
Yeah.
see our waiver quarterbacks. Instead of Hoyer, I would definitely play Fitzpatrick over Hoyer. I think I'd play McCown.
but I would not against St. Louis, not against that front 7.
They're going to have to throw.
I know they are, but I don't trust McCown to get the ball out.
You're the captain of the McCown fan club. You talked about.
I know I was. You
were singing his praises. You talked about how good his fantasy ball picture looked.
I was, and then you put him up against a defense that has a pass rush, and it clearly affects him.
I mean,
Well-
defense is Denver's the #1 defense in the league, and he still had what two touchdowns and 200 yards. I mean, 2
2
picks.
interceptions
too.
and a fumble.
This is also really unsexy that instead of Hoyer, I think Foles is a better play than Hoyer. I know you won't do it because you hate everyone that ever played for the Eagles.
There's some personal animosity there. That's not happening.
No.
Wait, why do you hate Foles?
I'm not going to get into that. I shouldn't because we're not gonna open up Eagles nest.
Because it's not the Eagles'
Is
corner
it because
yet.
the Eagles traded him for? You blame a man like
No
you think
comment.
he wanted
This
to
is
get that
coming out in
telegram?
post.
Sorry, thanks for your career season. I know you got hurt, but we're gonna throw you out like yesterday's garbage.
Yep, that's how it works.
But hear me out. Cleveland's a good matchup because their defense just sucks in general. If Eric McCown can get going, they'll put some points up because their offense is pretty good. But Foles has looked like crap. He's played 5 games so far. Seattle at home, Washington on the road, Steelers at home, Cardinals on the road, Packers on the road. That's a pretty tough schedule, and there's some decent defenses in there. And those are some tough road games. Arizona on the road, not easy.
What are you looking
Green
down
Bay
the
on the road.
road for? He just needs to start him in a
one
pinch,
week.
right?
Well, I'm talking about just in general why Foles has looked like crap. So,
I
don't know why we're spending so much airtime.
Yeah, I know.
debating
This
Foles
needs
versus
to-
Hoyer.
This is coming out in post. So
No, Foles is underrated. If you're super pathetically desperate for QB play, or you're in a 20-team league or a 30-team league or a 40-team league, maybe you should consider starting Foles. But I don't know. All I'm saying is he's better than what he's shown, and it'll come to light someday.
all right, so end the cut here, and then continue talking
Oh.
about something else. No, I don't know. I can't. I mean, the guy over his last 3. If you take out the Arizona game, which I know it's not fair to do that to someone, but if you take out the Arizona game, he's got 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions to go along with 2 more fumbles.
Yeah, it's
I
bad.
don't-
It's bad. I know that.
I just can't.
All right. Well, you're 5-1.
I can't.
Who am I talking about?
Maybe someone else can, but I don't know. That's just me. But yeah. Any other waiver wires you want to throw out there?
Yeah. Stephon Diggs.
Thank you.
I never heard of him before last week. I still don't know that much about him. I'm telling you right now, you must play him. He's getting targets. From what I am told, I've never actually seen him in game action. So this is from secondhand reports at best. He's like a poor man Antonio Brown type. So he's supposed to be fast, and he's getting volume, and he has a really good matchup.
Last 2 games, he's only owned in 24% of leagues right now. Last 2 games, 13 catches, 216 yards, no touchdowns, but you got to love the matchup this week against Detroit from Minnesota.
And he's not super high probability, but he fits the mold of a guy that can break out as a rookie. and become one of the better rookie receivers.
Yeah. Cool.
If anybody in your league was dumb enough to drop Ronnie Hillman, I would suggest picking him up.
I would. I stand by that. I don't think he's startable.
Dude, you could at least traded him. You could have got something for him. He's a running back in the NFL. You could have got something for him.
Yeah, but I mean, he's just not worth owning because he's good enough to think that you can start him, but he's just going to cost you points. Like he's just like a walking opportunity cost.
Okay.
You start him 3 games in a row to get one 100-yard rushing game.
I respect that, but I mean,
And also,
talent.
Cleveland is like the best defense for a running back to be matched up against. So, okay, cool, you got 100 yards and no touchdown. Are we not, you can't put him in the Hall of Fame for that. And someday, C.J. Anderson's going to learn that in order to be a successful NFL running back, do not run directly into your lineman. And when that day happens, when Kubiak's message of not running into your lineman gets through to them,
Oh, man.
he's going to get those carries back.
Crazy. All right. I think we've wasted enough of people's time. It's time to go to bold predictions. And I'll start with Max's, since he did send me one. And I think everyone will love it.
Okay. Oh, my God. Wow.
That's his bold prediction.
Well, first off, they're going to lose to the Steelers twice because the Steelers are going to shove Permane sandwiches down their throats, and you know we're going to bring the terrible towel out and wipe Andy Dalton's butt with it. So.
All right, Myron.
Yeah, that sounded really threatening.
Yeah, it did. Pretty rough.
No, that's crazy. That's ridiculous, but.
I like Max sending notes in and then us bashing on him with his notes. This is fun. I could do this more often.
Do it every week.
This should happen more often.
Well, I first off, I think we should remind everybody what our bold predictions were last week. That way
I don't remember, so please remind me also.
That way they can remember or know never to trust us. Because I think I said that Peyton Manning was going to have a resurgence.
Yeah, I think you did.
He was going to show us that he's the Peyton Manning of old, and that didn't happen. My second bold prediction I was going to say was Blake Bortles has a better game than Tom Brady, which he actually did. So I'm double down again. Blake Bortles, Jacksonville, better game than one Thomas J. Brady.
Wow. All right, Mark?
Do you happen to know what my prediction was last week?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Mine was Bradford, I think. So that was
Did
the
I
ninth.
say Anderson again? I had Anderson every week for a while, and I think I switched. I think I said Hopkins, and
You might have.
believe me, roll the tape back. I dare you.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do one optimistic one and one pessimistic one. And I'll say pessimistic first because I haven't thought of the optimistic one yet, but it'll come to me in the next 5 seconds.
All right.
All right, Brandon Marshall, no touchdowns, and he will have 4 receptions for exactly 48 yards.
Ooh, okay.
I think the other shoe drops and New England realizes, wait a minute, this guy's like 34 years old or something. Optimistic. This has got to be the game. I'm tired of waiting. This is who I hope is like breakout game.
Okay.
If it's gonna happen, like, now's the time. Otherwise, downgrade him to like, I don't know, wide receiver 2 or something. Like honestly, if he's like a splash guy, and if he can't like get the long touchdown passes, he's not really fun to own, and he's basically a slightly better broken Mike Evans. We just like you sit there and you get like 80 yards, but it's like 8 receptions. He's turning into possession receiver. Luck's not an injury report. He needs to make me happy. I would say 135 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Ty?
Yes. Otherwise, he'll continue to play without consequence because I don't have anything better.
I just wanna give someone a little shout out here real quick before we finish. How about one Brent Massar starting not 1 but 2 Jacksonville wide receivers? So
Yeah.
just right there. That's a little slow clap. And they both actually had pretty decent games. Looking at their numbers, it's ridiculous. Last 3 games, Allen Hurns, 20.6, 19.6, 9, 16 before that. Wow. Is Jacksonville kind of good or what?
People laughed at me for years. Laughed and laughed. And I saw like the foundation being put down.
Okay.
And now the time is here. And I'm just going to say it. This is another bold prediction. The Jacksonville Jaguars of 2015.
AFC South champs.
The best 2-14 team in the NFL history.
Oh my God, we can't end on that. So I'll throw out. I'm going to go your route, Mark, with one sort of optimistic and one probably legitimate. So my optimistic one is that I'm not going to take your advice in terms of dropping who I have and picking up Fitzpatrick. So I'm going to say, to make me happy, Brian Hoyer has to. This is a bold prediction in and of itself. He has to finish the game, not on the bench.
Oh, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that.
Part one of the optimistic.
Okay.
Part two is that what did he have last week? Hold on, let me draw his numbers back up here. So he had 23 points, I know that.
Okay.
23 points, 293 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's going to go 325, 2 touchdowns through the air, and 1 on his feet. So that's what, 25 points.
Okay.
And no picks. And I'm happy.
I love how the bold prediction segment just turned into the wishful thinking segment.
We can rename this next week.
All about our own teams and our own players, and just this is the week C.J. Anderson just goes off.
Just happens.
65 points, breaks a single season rushing record in one game. So that's funny.
Oh man! All right, actual bold prediction though. Is that, oh, God, this is going to come back and bite me, but for anyone that's in my local area listening to this, but the Philadelphia Eagles don't put up one offensive touchdown this week.
Ooh.
So I would sit everyone on Philly's offense.
I like it.
I'm doing. Carolina's getting, they got Kuechly back. And that's a defense that they're going up against. I know they went up against them last year, and it really didn't look good for Cam. I think it's going to be a defensive battle that game. So I think both defenses in that game have a chance. Here's your bold prediction: both defenses have a chance to go over 20 points in that game.
Oh, now that's bold.
Ooh,
that is bold, son.
So there's that.
All right. Well, I have one more that just popped in my head, and I can't rationalize it, so I'm just going to say it. It's not even fantasy related. But in tomorrow night's game, Blaine Gabbert will make an appearance.
Okay.
It could be because San Francisco blows out Seattle. Seattle blows out San Francisco. It could be because Seattle injures Kaepernick. But you're going to see Blaine Gabbert tomorrow night.
All right. I look forward to it, oddly.
And then I know we're pushing past the time limit, but
yeah, a little bit.
All these like real life football predictions and Parker's insane prediction kind of like fired up the blood a little bit. You're gonna just run through the divisions and each pick a division winner, like where we think the season's gonna go. Just pick like a playoff team from every division, real quick.
Real quick, you want to so bad, I can tell. you never asked for anything. The kid with perfect attendance. Oh man, why not? Let's do it.
All right. Say New England, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Denver, chalk in the AFC, wildcard teams, Steelers, and Oakland Raiders.
Whoa.
NFC, Giants, Packers, Panthers, Cardinals, wildcard teams. I have Atlanta and St. Louis.
Okay.
I'm good, Rob, because I'm not even.
All right. I'm going to go chalk in the AFC. like you said, Mark. My wild card teams there will be the Steelers and the Jets. And then NFC, I'm going Falcons. Why, you're doing this to spite me for some reason?
I just want to. Now we're starting to see.
You want to get to it?
All
right. Here we go. We got Falcons, Packers, Cardinals,
and
and I mean, I don't want to lose my life, so Eagles, and then your wild card teams will go
we've heard enough.
Falcons and Seahawks.
Yeah, that was just an elaborate trick
to get
to make you
say
pick the Eagles.
Division champs. That's fine. I get it. So Seth,
Jets out of the East.
Oh,
yeah. Steelers out of the North. Broncos definitely, and let's go with that. Let's shake things up a little bit. Let's go with the Texans. I think Hoyer. I think they found something good with Hoyer. So hopefully the defense.
Speak to me, baby.
And I mean, was anyone really impressed by the Colts? I mean,
I kind of was.
Seriously,
for a while they looked good.
No, they did not. I watched that whole damn game and they did not look good. Luck was terrible.
Well, yeah, he was horrible. That's what impressed me. Like they were in there.
That's what impressed me. And
he's god awful.
For wild card, you know what? I'm gonna go Patriots and Bengals. So in the NFC, we're gonna go Panthers, Packers.
Do it.
I'm such a sucker for the Eagles.
Do it.
It's like Jekyll and Hyde. Like every single week. Like I told Max at one time, I'm like, dude, you guys can score every single possession. And now I'm convinced like you guys have the greatest defense since like the '85 Bears or something. And let's go with you got to pick the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And so wild card, I'm gonna go with the Falcons and the damn, who's gonna be the last team? Rams. Let's go with the Rams.
All right, we're in this together.
We're in this together, brother.
Do it. Cool. Well, that was just added time, and I love it. It was fun. I'm mad that you.
I love it.
So we get to talk for more time. I love this. We could do that every week.
Yeah, take that, listeners. That's 10 more minutes. What are you gonna do? Read a book?
Take it. You like listening to us. It's fine. We get it. We know it. So I don't know. Share your thoughts. Leave your division winners in the comments on the website if that's where you're listening to this, or if not, tweet at us. I guess you can't see our Twitter handles, but stalk us and find us.
I'm private. Don't bother me.
Okay. Don't bother Mark. So and yeah, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and follow the podcast along on fullycoveredsports.com and check back here every week and we'll be here. Later.
Bye.